Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanic. And if you enjoy this fanic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanic like this. And now let's start the fanic.
I believe now is a good time to admit that I am not needed here, father. Hinata sat beside her father, Hiyashi, in their garden, watching the koi fish in the pond. This was one of Neji's favorite spots in the compound. Just looking at it made Hinata feel sick. It gave her a horrible, nauseating headache. Neji was gone. He died in war. The Fourth Shinobi World War. He died protecting her and Naruto Uzumaki. Hinata would never see Neji again, not until she died and went to the afterlife. Hinata has never felt so lost in her entire life. She rather have been kidnapped and had her eyes gouged out by Cloud Village 1,000,001 times, in exchange for Neji to be alive. Here, sitting with her and her father. She didn't look at Hiyashi. She just let him read a document that she gave him. A document she wanted him to sign. To give her approval for something that she needed. You are needed. Hanabi needs her sister. Konoha needs you, Hinata. You just passed your Gentle Fist Master course. I do not understand why you'd want to leave when you achieved such greatness. Hinata closed her eyes and let the cool air blow her hair astray. It had grown to her waist. A week ago, she was thinking of cutting her hair. However, Neji thought she looked rather nice with long hair. So, Hinata kept it this length. In reality, it was a sign that she couldn't let go of her past. Hanabi has a life, father. She has friends, and she does not need me. She just wants me here. Whether I am a shell of a person or not. I am begging you to please let me go. Hiyashi let out a heavy breath and pinched the bridge of his nose. He knew Hinata was hurting. Since the war, she hasn't been the same. She never left the compound. Unless it was for missions. She didn't hang out with her friends anymore. She didn't smile anymore. She was just here. Training. Studying. Everything. But being happy. She wasn't the Hinata he knew anymore. She wasn't the Hinata any of them knew anymore. Depression had flooded through her veins. It wouldn't leave his daughter alone. How could he deny such a request? This is your 19th birthday present that you want, Hinata. To be granted permission to leave. If I sign this, the Hokage will automatically agree. Where will you go? That doesn't even matter. Remember this, you're forever going to be my child. I always want to know what's going on with you, Hinata. Hinata looked at a white koi fish and smiled. That wasn't true. There was a point in time that her father didn't care if she lived or died. They didn't have to discuss that though. They could bury that trauma in the ground forever and never dig it up. I will travel. I will see the world. I will find my peace. Will you let me find myself again, father? I promise I will not bring our family dishonor. Hiyashi chuckled at this. He never would think Hinata would go out and have a girls gone wild streak. He knew she wouldn't bring embarrassment to their clan. Fine, Hinata. I sign this, and you are free to go as you please. I just ask that you come back to us when you do find yourself. I want you to know. I understand, Hinata. I miss him too. Every single day. Hinata's jaw clenched and she slowly nodded her head. I believe I have cried enough over Neji, father. Hiyashi shook his head in disagreement. The last time you wept was at the funeral ceremony for the fallen. You didn't even cry when our family had a private one for Neji. Hinata let out a shaky breath and nodded her head again. He was right. Crying has never gotten me anywhere, father. It is for the weak. That being said, thank you for doing this for me. With that, Hinata stood up and bowed to her father as she retired for the evening in her room. She didn't fall directly to sleep. She spent some time just staring at the wall in her bedroom. Staring at nothing. Thinking about nothing. Feeling nothing. This couldn't be life. Where was the joy? Kiba and Shino watched as Hinata walked by them. Maybe she saw them. Maybe she didn't. Hinata never spoke to anyone anymore for them to know. For over 2 years, Hinata has been this shell. A blob. Just silent and never really present. They couldn't even drag her out of the Hyuga compound. At this rate, that compound was Hinata's village. She never left it, unless she had to. On missions. She was quiet. Very professional. Not rude, but not social. Hinata was never really social, but it was like a light in her just dwindled until recently, when it went out completely. Hinata stopped wearing her hoodies and pants. Instead, she just wore a black kimono that almost touched the ground. The sleeves were long and went over her hands. She kept her hair almost the same. The back of her hair beyond her waist. She didn't look like the meek, sweet Hinata they knew. She kept her head held high, and her eyes scared the villagers when they looked at her. They looked so empty and dangerous. Hinata, Kiba and Shino were hanging out with Naruto and Sakura today. Deciding to go out for some lunch. That's when Kiba and Shino eyed Hinata walking down the street. To the direction of the Hokage's office. Naruto yelled her name and Hinata paused to look at him. They were in a hut eating. So it wasn't like Naruto yelled out of a restaurant. Hinata didn't voice her acknowledgement. She just looked at him. With that scary look she looked at the villagers with. Naruto frowned as he looked at her. He noticed the change in Hinata. It was very obvious. How distant she was and how void she looked the last year or so. Like she was fading away. Are you going to the Hokage's office? Hinata arched her brow as she simply nodded her head. Kiba, Shino and Sakura frowned at this. The Hinata they remembered would never treat Naruto like this. Like he was a nuisance. Naruto seemed to brush it off and smiled at her. He put some money on the table to cover his meal and went over to Hinata. Naruto was in a Jonin ninja vest. Since everything was stable and they were in a time of peace. He was able to correctly take the appropriate exams to have his justified rank. He wore his Jonin vest on top of a long black sleeve shirt and black cargo pants. The threading a bright orange color for the pants. I have to go there too. Can I walk with you? Hinata tilted her head as she looked at Naruto. She had bags under her eyes and it looked like Hinata hasn't been sleeping properly at all. She looked like she did not want to be bothered by anyone, especially Naruto. I would rather you. Come on. Let's go. Naruto had already started walking and ushered for Hinata to walk with him. Completely cutting her off and ignoring her rejection that he could sense was coming from her. Hinata watched as he walked ahead of her and frowned. This was not okay anymore. Invading her personal space was not okay anymore. Dismissing her was not okay anymore. She glared at Naruto's back and followed behind him silently. The three remaining ninjas watched the whole exchange happen. Sakura blinked as she looked at Kiba and Shino. Whoa. When Naruto and Hinata arrived to the Hokage's office, Hinata watched as Naruto knocked and opened the door to the office. Kakashi was sitting at his desk as he looked at Naruto, who was looking behind him to Hinata. Come on. You said you were coming here, right? Hinata looked at Naruto with dull eyes. What was he doing? I will wait out in the hall while you talk to Hokage-sama. I do not wish to impose on your privacy. Naruto furrowed his brows and looked at Hinata. Since when did Hinata have such uppity manners? Naruto looked completely thrown off and slightly annoyed. Also, where did Hinata get that noble voice from? Like, yes. Hinata has always been polite, but this was pushing it. Impose. What? Hinata. Just come on in. I'm just giving him my mission report. Sensei. Tell Hinata to just come in. Kakashi rolled his eyes at Naruto, but smiled at Hinata. Don't mind him, Lady Hinata. Please. Come in. You're not imposing at all. Kakashi took Naruto's mission report and looked at Hinata at the same time. I received all the needed paperwork to grant you leave from Konoha. So, have you figured out how long you will be gone, Hinata? If Naruto was being nosy, he wasn't showing it. While Kakashi was multitasking and looking over his mission report, Naruto was looking out the massive window. His hands dug deep in his pockets. Hinata chose to ignore Naruto at this point. Over a year, sir. Maybe 2 at the earliest. Kakashi stopped reading the report and looked up at Hinata. Oh, so this is a hiatus. I see. I'm surprised your father agreed to this. Hinata didn't have a reply for that. She just slowly nodded her head. Kakashi kept eyeing Hinata as he put the report down to look over later. Is everything alright? No. Yes, sir. Kakashi narrowed his eyes as he looked at Hinata. Hinata. Don't lie to me. Hinata continued to look at her leader with lackluster eyes. There is nothing for me to have a problem on, sir. My missions are successful. I have passed my Gentle Fist Master course. Only me and my father hold the title in our clan. Hanabi has been officially deemed heiress of the Hyuga clan. I have more time on my hands now, sir. Everything is fine. Kakashi crossed his arms over his chest and looked at Hinata from his seat. We had an anniversary visual of the fallen 2 weeks ago, Hinata. You weren't there. I cleared your mission schedule along with many others so you could make time. The visual was all day. You didn't show up once. Hinata slowly nodded her head in acknowledgement. I apologize. I didn't know it was mandatory. Kakashi looked at Hinata and tilted his head. She knew it wasn't mandatory. Or she would have went. Hiyashi went with Hanabi and made an excuse for Hinata's absence. Well, I'm going to approve this. Since your father already gave his blessing. I hope you find what you're looking for out there, Hinata. Hinata looked at Kakashi in his eyes clearly for once. Thank you, sir. I hope so too. Kakashi could tell just by looking at Hinata what the issue was. It wasn't his place to call her out, but judging how quiet Naruto was. Naruto knew the issue just as well. Well, whenever you want to leave Hinata, you can do as you wish. Hinata bowed at Kakashi and turned to leave after he dismissed her. When the door shut, Naruto finally turned to look at Kakashi. She hasn't been okay in a while. Everyone is worried about her. Especially Kiba and Shino. She won't talk to us, sensei. Kakashi shook his head as he went back to reading Naruto's report. There's nothing we can do about it, Naruto. Don't go bothering Hinata when it's obvious she needs space and time. Naruto frowned at this. He didn't really want to jump and act fast because he was emotional, but that was just how he worked. Well, Sasuke is coming back soon. Right. Just to spend some time in the village and hang out with Sakura. Like what a real couple is supposed to do. So, you'll have those two in the village in case anything happens. Kakashi looked confused for a moment and put the report back down. Naruto. You aren't going to go following Hinata out there. She wants to get away from Konoha. Not see its hero every 5 seconds. Naruto shook his head as he looked at Kakashi. I'm not okay with her being alone. I know what it feels like to be in a dark place in your head and alone. If she isolates herself, and won't have anyone there to pull her out of it. Hinata isn't going to be okay. What if she doesn't make it back? Kakashi let out a sigh and rubbed his temples. Naruto wasn't wrong, but gosh, did he not want to invade someone's privacy like this. He also didn't want to lose any more ninjas from Konoha. Especially someone he knew. You can't be gone the same amount of time Hinata is leaving for, and you know it. Well, just give me like a year. 2 tops. If you need me back really bad, just send for me. Kakashi looked at Naruto completely flabbergasted. Where is this coming from, Naruto? Why is Hinata so important to you now? Naruto looked at Kakashi confused. What kind of question is that? Hinata is a really good friend. She lost someone really close to her and Neji was someone important to me as well. She needs help. I want to help her. Let me help her, please. Kakashi rubbed his neck as he listened to Naruto. Why couldn't he just say he liked the girl? She left at 4 in the morning. Hinata wanted to leave at a time where she didn't have to speak to anyone. She wrote a note to her father and Hanabi. So they knew that today was the day. She wrote a note to Kurenai. Hinata told her it was a blessing Kurenai came into her life when she did, and to take care of Kiba, Shino, and of course her baby girl. That she loved them. That they were her true family. Hinata walked until the sun started to peek out. She had one backpack on her back that was filled with basic necessities and tons of scrolls that she sealed what she really needed and wanted. Hinata took a deep breath the further she walked from the village. Today, she wore a cream-colored mini kimono. This was Neji's go-to color. She wanted to celebrate being free today with Neji. Hinata continued to take deep breaths as a soft smile covered her face. This was their dream. Her and Neji's. To leave the village someday. Just because they wanted to. To be free and no longer caged in. It had to be about 5 hours of non-stop walking for Hinata before she made it to an opening. A large river that she needed to cross over to continue her travels. Hinata smiled again as she expanded her arms, focused chakra to her feet, and walked on the water. Crossing it with ease and having fun while doing so. Skipping and twirling as she crossed it. When Hinata made it over, she closed her eyes and took another deep breath as she smiled. Does this make you happy? Immediately Hinata's smile dropped and she looked in front of her to see Naruto. He was staring at her with a smile and Hinata couldn't help but look completely upset with seeing him. Why are you here? Naruto was in the Hokage's office and clearly was eavesdropping. She should have known to follow her gut and to wait for Naruto to finish first and then go in. She said too much without saying anything at all. She barely spoke while in the office with the Hokage. Why would Naruto just jump up and follow her? Naruto was about to answer Hinata's question with some random excuse, but was stopped when Hinata started poking him in the chest. Pushing him back. She was pushing him rather roughly. Why did you do this? You have no right to invade my privacy, Naruto Uzumaki. You think because you are one of the strongest beings on this earth, that you can just mess with people's lives like this. How dare you? Naruto was pushed back a few steps and looked at Hinata shocked. She had never done this to him before. Never spoken to him so harsh. He knew she would be upset he followed her, but he wasn't thinking she'd be this upset. He did it for a reason. He just wanted her to be okay. Naruto grabbed Hinata's finger that was painfully poking his chest. Hey, stop that. You're hurting me, Yano. Hinata's frown deepened as she looked at Naruto. He's been hurting her since she laid eyes on him as a child. Constantly breaking her heart. Never willing to look her way, unless it meant an adventure was going to be involved. They only grew some sort of friendship because he didn't like Neji. Then when Neji beat her in the exams, and Naruto was assigned to fight him in the next stage. That was a whole new adventure for Naruto to have. Naruto never saw her for her. He only cared about the thrill of what following her promised. Get away from me. Stop following me now, Uzumaki. Naruto paused at Hinata's cold tone. Her hollow eyes staring daggers at him. I'm not following you. I can travel too, if I want. I figured, if Hinata could get some time to rejuvenate, then so could I. So, that's what I'm doing. We both have been working super hard since the war. It's a giant world, Hinata. I don't have to be out here because of you. I just so happened to see you and wanted to say hi. Hinata didn't believe anything Naruto was saying. She actually felt offended that he was going this far to lie to her. This is my life. This is my business. This has nothing to do with you, Uzumaki. Leave me alone. Naruto opened his mouth to retort back that he was on his own personal journey, but Hinata cut him off. If you are here for just yourself. You are right. This is a big world. Find another path that does not involve me. She meant that, in all perspectives. Naruto furrowed his brows at her and could feel an underlining meaning to what she just said. You know what? I get it, Hinata. This isn't about me and I don't want you to think it is about me. You know, things have been hard after the war. Getting our lives back together. Hinata continued to look at Naruto, showing no emotion that his words were even reaching her. This isn't about everyone getting their lives back together. This is about me, Uzumaki. Okay. So talking to her wasn't working. Naruto was becoming stumped. Hinata was a caring person. Gentle and as shy as they come. This wasn't her. She was hurting inside and for some reason she didn't want people to see her in pain. Did she feel like no one would care? You're right. It's about you and Neji. Who was Hinata trying to fool? Naruto was there. Right in there when Neji died. When Hinata and Neji risked their lives for him. When Hinata cried and still pulled herself and him together to get back into the fight. Naruto was there the day of the mass funeral for the fallen. Hinata looked broken. Like her light faded away from her. She lost someone precious to her. From what Naruto knew about Hinata, she lost her mother when she was about 6 years old, and she lost her uncle when she was a child as well. Now she's lost Neji, someone she deemed her brother. It all must hurt her. It was like a switch went off in Hinata, because she glared at him. She really was giving Naruto a menacing glare. I do not wish to speak of Neji with you, Uzumaki. Please leave me alone. Forever. Naruto ran his hands through his hair and let out a sigh. Okay. Look, you're right. I'm being some weird creep, and I'm following you. I listened to you and Kakashi in the office when I shouldn't have. I invaded your privacy, but Hinata, come on. I won't bother you. I won't talk a hole in your ear and I will be a good travel buddy. At least for a few days. Let me just. Hinata turned her back on Naruto and proceeded to walk away. No. Naruto ran in front of Hinata to stop her. Wait. Wait. Okay. What do you want me to say, Hinata? Sorry for lying to you. Sorry for invading your privacy. Is there any way I can convince you to let me just be a fly on the wall for a bit? Just to make sure this is what you want. Hinata blinked at his last sentence. You want to see if this is what I want. That's it. That's simple. In a day or so Naruto will grow bored and go off to look for an adventure. He was emotionally inept. He couldn't handle other people's emotional baggage, he couldn't even handle his own. Fine. Do as you please, Uzumaki. Naruto let out a sigh of relief, but soon frowned again at Hinata. Can I be Naruto again? You can talk to me normal, Hinata. We know each other. Hinata silently stared at Naruto and gave him a dull look. Naruto held his hands up in defeat. Fine. I'll play by your rules. For now. Hinata was a bit annoyed. It has been a week and Naruto was still traveling with her. Showing no signs that he was going to leave. Currently the duo was traveling near Bath Village. It was popular for their hot springs and waterfalls. Hinata always wanted to venture out and see the place. Neji always talked about how much he wanted to finally relax and vacation at the soothing place. So, in honor of Neji, she'll do it for him. Naruto looked at Hinata as she walked off the pathway and into the wood line. He followed her, of course. He's been on her tail for a week and had no ambition of leaving. He could tell at first Hinata thought he'd grow bored with her. Like she was some pet or something. However, he started to see her grow more frustrated the longer he stuck around. He'd rather Hinata to be frustrated with him instead of walking around like a ghost. Besides, Hinata should look at herself differently. She wasn't boring. Even if she was quiet most of the time. Hinata was rather intriguing. She could make nothing into something. She came out here with no food to cook with and was able to literally use nature to make a good meal. Hinata tried to hide it, but she enjoyed collecting flowers and Naruto would catch her pressing them from time to time. He liked watching how fascinated Hinata was with life around her. He felt like she held a lot of her excitement in because he was around. Honestly, Naruto just wanted to know why Hinata was pushing everyone away. What did they do to her? Why couldn't Hinata pull herself from this depression of losing Neji? Naruto understood it hurt. It hurt him. Losing Neji impacted Naruto as well. Of course, not on the same level as Hinata, but still, he understood her pain. Finally, they reached an opening and Naruto saw a massive waterfall. He thought back to how happy Hinata was when she walked across a river and was starting to realize Hinata liked these sort of things. She dropped her travel bag and walked to the bank of the river. The waterfall was a couple of feet away, but Hinata was going to take her time getting to it. Naruto noticed how the past few years Hinata wore dark colors in the village. However, since leaving the village her kimonos have been bright. Today she wore a lavender-colored one. Naruto's face looked concerned for a moment when he saw Hinata take her sandals off and walk to the river. She sat on the ground and put her feet in the water. It wasn't warm. This wasn't a hot spring. Still, Hinata ended up sticking her feet into the water and slid in all the way until she was under the water. Naruto jogged over to Hinata and saw her pop out the water and lean her back on the ledge. He put his hand in the water and felt that it was cool. Hinata was going to get sick playing around in this water. He looked at her with a frown on his face. Her clothes were soaked. She pulled her bangs out her face because they were getting into her eyes. Why would she do this? What was Hinata thinking? You're going to get sick staying in this water, Hinata. She ignored him and leaned her head back, resting it on the ledge and closed her eyes. Like she was relaxing. How can you be away from the village for so long, Uzumaki? Surely Konoha needs its savior there to protect the village. Who will protect Konoha while you are gone? Naruto sat on the ground near Hinata and crossed his legs. His elbows rested on his knees and he looked at Hinata, not amused at her ignoring him. He wasn't getting through to Hinata at all. You answer me first, Hinata. Hinata smiled with her eyes closed. I'm cold all the time. This water doesn't bother me. My blood is cold. My heart is cold. I am just a cold person, Uzumaki. Naruto scoffed at Hinata's melodramatic words. No, you're not. You don't have a cold bone in your body, Hinata. Still, I believe you do get cold easily because you always dress like you're cold. Hinata finally frowned and looked at Naruto, appearing upset that he noticed something factual about her. She was always cold and did like to dress heavily because of it. It annoyed Hinata even more that Naruto was looking at her with an amused grin on his face. To answer your question, Sasuke is coming to the village tomorrow. So typically when I'm not in the village, he's there. Hinata hummed in understanding, closing her eyes again. I get it now. You do not wish to be in the village at the same time as Uchiha-san. To see him with someone that you love, it must hurt. Naruto's grin fell off his face and he looked at Hinata confused. What? Hinata had her eyes closed, but still lazily turned to Naruto like it was obvious. Sakura. She is an item with Uchiha-san now. Seeing them together, after pouring your heart to her must hurt. She chose him. After everything he's done. Naruto was now frowning at Hinata. She was being nasty for no reason. You don't even know Sasuke. You don't know anything about him. You don't know how his relationship with Sakura is. Hinata opened her eyes and looked at Naruto. Her gaze looked uncaring and he could tell Hinata was on a path of just talking reckless. She was trying to push him away. Get him to leave her alone since he was being so stubborn with staying with her. He was supposed to be your best friend. Almost a brother to you. Yet he broke your heart. Sakura has loved Sasuke for a very long time. Odd, because he has done and said numerous things that would make any female run from him. However, Uzumaki, you're right. I do not know Uchiha-san, or anything about his relationship with Sakura. I just know that she chose him, and for you to have to see them together. After having such strong emotions for Sakura, it must hurt. Naruto shook his head as he looked at Hinata. I'm happy that Sakura is happy. I'm happy that Sasuke is happy. It's great that they can be together finally and that Sasuke can open his heart to her. Hinata smiled. Even though there was absolutely nothing to smile about. What about you? Surely it must hurt to see them together. To know that Sakura knows about your deep desire for her and she rejected it for the Uchiha. He must know you love Sakura as well. She shrugged her shoulders as she sunk further in the water. As long as they are happy. That's all that matters. Right, Uzumaki? Naruto blinked at Hinata, flabbergasted at how low Hinata was willing to go to hurt him. To get him to leave her. I cared for Sakura. I've desired her. We've been through a lot. Ups and downs. I do have strong feelings for Sakura, but it's not love. I don't love her. I never told Sakura I loved her. Hinata's smile slid off her face and for some reason Naruto felt a little victorious. She thought she struck a nerve there. You don't know about love, Uzumaki. Of course you loved her. You have strong emotions for her, but do not love her. You just don't realize you love her and that you're miserable that she chose Uchiha-san. Naruto looked at Hinata with that amused grin again as he arched his brow at her. Was she trying to convince him he should be upset? Heartbroken and miserable because Sakura didn't choose him over Sasuke. It hurt somewhat, but Sasuke was the love of Sakura's life. Naruto wasn't. That's all there was to it. Hinata turned her head from Naruto and closed her eyes again. Either way, I pity the woman that falls in love with you now. You'll never be able to properly love her. The first person that broke your heart will always be on your mind. The desire and affection you have for her. The fact Sakura knows all of this. It's a connection the two of you will have forever and it will isolate your future wife. She would resent you. Naruto looked at Hinata like she lost her mind. That was the most opinionated thing he'd ever heard in his life. Maybe not his life, because he's come across some insane people, but this was pretty wild to come from Hinata. What? That's crazy. People have first crushes all the time. Heartbreaks all the time. Life goes on, Hinata. People heal and move on. There is someone out there for everyone. Hinata was silent and this made Naruto curious. He had to ask. So, you're telling me you never cared for someone greatly, Hinata? Like I did for Sakura. You're saying you never got your heart broken. Hinata dipped her head into the cool water before she emerged back up, sliding all of her hair to the back, blinking as she looked straight ahead into nothing. Her long dark lashes almost hiding her eyes from him. I've been in love once before, but I have never had my heart broken because I never told the person how I felt. Naruto felt a little jittery talking about this with Hinata. The two never had a conversation like this. It was interesting. Exciting a little because he felt like he was really starting to know Hinata on another level. So, basing this off your words you just said moments ago, you won't have a relationship with another, because of your heartbreak. Right. That's what you're going to do. Hinata nodded her head at this. Correct. I'll never try to pursue another. I will never marry. I will not have children with another man. I will be alone. I loved that person very deeply. I couldn't possibly love another on equal terms. That would be selfish and unfair to the other person. What you're willing to do, Uzumaki, is selfish and unfair. You wouldn't give that new woman in your life all of you, like you were willing to give Sakura. Naruto looked at Hinata and shook his head again. A sarcastic smile on his face. He couldn't believe what she was saying. This sounded utterly insane. Well, who hurt you, Hinata? It's only fair you tell me who broke your heart, since you know who broke mine's. Hinata turned and looked at Naruto as he sat on the grass beside her. She smiled at him, but he could see it was an empty smile. A very dark and unhappy one. I looked up to this person since I was 6 years old. He was a superhero to me. With big, beautiful dreams. When I was 11 in the academy, I realized I had a crush on him. A very big crush. We had a day in class where Aruka-sensei asked us to write down who we would spend the end of the world with. I wrote down his name. Naruto blinked at Hinata. He remembered that day perfectly. He threw his paper out the window and got a tongue lashing from Aruka. Was he in our class? Hinata nodded her head and Naruto inched closer to her. He had to know who this person was. His guess was Sasuke. When I was 13, I realized I thought about this person all the time. He had left the village and I missed him greatly. I always prayed for his safe return. That was when I realized I loved this person. When I was 15, during the Pain invasion, I risked my life for this person and went against Pain, losing in seconds. I told him I loved him as I thought I was going to die. If you ask him though, he had amnesia on that exact moment, and nothing else. I'm glad now. Naruto's eyes widened as he was slowly starting to connect the dots. We went to war together and I risked my life for him again. Just to end up losing someone very dear to me for my immature decisions. I still fought on. I still tried my hardest. However, at the end of that war, I realized that day, I lost two people I loved. Hinata turned her head from Naruto and looked at the waterfall. I lost Neji and I lost you. I was in love with you, Uzumaki, and I'm thankful every day that I am no longer in that position where you have that hold over me. I don't love you anymore, but I won't hurt another person by trying to force love them. It would never equal out to all the years that I cared and loved you. Hinata sunk back into the water and relaxed, enjoying the silence from Naruto. She felt his chakra elevate and even felt a mixture coming from the nine tails. She didn't care. Everything she just said to him. He would leave now. It would be too awkward for him to stay. Naruto didn't love her. She wasn't Sakura. He wasn't going to stick around for too much longer and take this emotional abuse from Hinata. How dare you? Hinata looked at Naruto with an arched brow. Excuse me. Naruto was glaring at the ground as his face was scrunched up in anger. You can't just casually sit in some cold water and break this news to me like it's nothing of importance. That you had these feelings for me, and just decided to withhold them from me, for years. That you were selfish enough to do that. You had no right. Hinata, you know that you had no right. Hinata looked completely confused. I had no right. You do remember that you desired Sakura. That I was not even in the scope of your mind in that way, Uzumaki. You don't remember anything we did while growing up, or even as ninjas, because you don't care about me to that level. You wanted me to tell you my feelings so I would know how it feels to be rejected. Like you. Naruto finally looked at Hinata and his rage didn't settle. He looked even more livid. You don't know what I would have said. You saw me struggle every day growing up, hoping someone could be there for me, and yet you kept these things to yourself. You sit here on your high horse and say I'm the selfish one, because I'm willing to seek love from another. When in reality you're the selfish, evil one. He shook his head at her, still in disbelief. How could you do that, Hinata? How could you just deny both of us something like love? You had absolutely no right. Hinata pushed off the ledge and swam in the middle of the river. She turned to look at Naruto and looked completely unsympathetic about the situation. You didn't love me, Uzumaki. You didn't love me then, and you do not love me now. We barely have a solid friendship. You followed me out here because you thought an adventure would come with it. Besides, you should be happy you don't love me, Uzumaki. Everyone that loves me dies. With that, Hinata started to swim towards the waterfall. Naruto's heart was beating so fast. He felt like he was going to have a heart attack. He couldn't breathe normal. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. He felt disheveled and all over the place. He couldn't think straight right now. Hinata loved him for years. She had feelings for him since they were single digits. When he was alone and thought the world hated him. She didn't. She loved him, but never told him. Hinata decided to tell him when she felt as if she moved on. She never even gave him a chance. She just automatically assumed he would reject her and still pursue Sakura. Maybe he would have, but if he did, at least that was a decision he could have made. She took that from him. She took something as precious as love from both of them. What if he did give it a chance between them? What if he did stop chasing after Sakura and started to grow something with Hinata? All the sadness in Hinata, Naruto would have fought those inner demons away. They could have been something. A team. Hinata took that away though. She didn't even give him a chance. Hinata was down the bank, at the waterfall. She looked up at it, in all its glory. You're beautiful. She mumbled this as she looked at nature's creative work. You're a coward. Hinata turned around and saw Naruto directly behind her in the water. When did he get in the water and swim towards her? She didn't hear any of this. She looked at Naruto confused and blinked at him. What? Naruto had taken off his shirt and jacket before getting in the water. His hair was short, so he didn't have to keep messing with it like Hinata. Naruto was close and invaded Hinata's space, so she moved back to create distance, just for Naruto to move and close it in again. You heard me. You're a coward, Hinata Hyuga. I never thought I'd say this about you. Hinata almost laughed at this. A coward. All those times she risked her life for him and others. Yet he called her a coward. Like he could read her mind, Naruto elaborated. You didn't keep your feelings from me because of Sakura. You did it because you were scared of being rejected. At least I had the balls to tell Sakura I liked her. I took the rejection. You were so scared of being rejected, you just decided for me and you. You made a decision for me without even confronting me. You were being a coward. Even now. The way you told me. It was such a cowardly way to do it. Hinata looked into his eyes and saw nothing but hurt. Hinata has never hurt someone to this caliber in her life. I can admit that. I was a coward. Naruto continued to stare Hinata down as he called her out. Everything you just said back there was a crock of shit. To cover up the fact that you did something really ed up Hinata. You know it was messed up. You never gave me a chance. You just wrote me off, like everyone else in the village. Her eyes widened and Hinata looked appalled. She wanted to tell him that what he said wasn't true, but then she would be comforting him. Assuring him that she was worth sticking around for, and Hinata just wanted to be alone. Forever. Think what you want, Uzumaki. I take it that you'll be leaving now. Naruto grinned wildly at Hinata. No, I'm not leaving. I like being around you. He watched in enjoyment as Hinata's nostrils flared and how she attempted to get her emotions under control. Since they've been out here, Hinata has cooked for only herself. She didn't make Naruto anything and he was fine with that. She didn't even want him here. Why would she cook for him? However, after the waterfall earlier, Naruto saw Hinata catch a rabbit and make a stew big enough for both of them. They sat under a large tree and had a good size fire going. Hinata was a tent person and had one set up under the tree so bugs wouldn't get on her. It was a pretty decent sized tent. The two had changed from their soaked clothes. Hinata had on a black long sleeve shirt and black sweatpants. Her bang back on her face and her hair pulled up into a high bun. Naruto was in a black V-neck shirt and black loose lounging pants. While Hinata was checking her stew, she pulled out 2 bowls. She poured herself a bowl and made an extra one, that she ended up silently handing to Naruto. It is too much for me to eat. So, if you wish, you can have this. Naruto silently took the bowl, because in reality, he was still upset with Hinata. What she confessed earlier was huge. It was heavy and he felt like she did it just to spite him. Just to hurt him because she was hurting right now. Hinata said some very messed up things. Naruto was sure she took none of it back too. He picked with the hot food as he was stuck in thought. I know you don't like bad language around you, So I'm sorry for cursing at you earlier like that, Hinata. Hinata shrugged her shoulders as she ate, avoiding eye contact with him. It is not a big deal. Nothing to dwell on. Naruto smiled at this. Everything from earlier is nothing to dwell on. Why? Because you no longer have these feelings. So it's fine to freely talk about it now. She nodded her head nonchalantly. Yes, exactly. Naruto gave a dark chuckle as he started to eat Hinata's cooking. She still cooked amazing as ever. So, is Neji the reason you're out here? Willing to separate yourself from the village forever? Or is it me? You hate me now so much, you just can't even stand being in the same village as me. Hinata was silent before she looked up at Naruto. He still looked hurt from earlier and he had every right to be upset with her. The things she said was utterly vile and disgusting. It wasn't who Hinata was and who she wanted to grow to be. Neji would be disappointed in her right now. She was just so lost. Hinata rubbed the back of her neck as she looked away from Naruto. I don't sleep well. I sleep very little and it is hard for me to focus. It gives me headaches. I have nightmares. I can't get my thoughts to become clear and I feel stuck. I feel stuck in the past. I feel stuck in this world right now and everything is changing. Everyone is growing. Becoming happy. While I cannot remember how to be happy. I cannot remember how to live appropriately. Living is a chore and I hate feeling this way. Hinata shook her head as she looked back at Naruto. I can barely eat. My passion for things have dwindled and I am just not happy with who I've become. Doctors say I am fine. Perfect health. Nothing is wrong with me, but I can't stop the feeling that something is wrong. In my mind, no one needs to see me fade away like this. This isn't about you, Uzumaki. I just want to find my joy again. Naruto put his bowl down and looked at Hinata. What she said was how she looked. Defeated and hopeless. Yet, this was a big progress he was making with her. Hinata finally opened up to him. You can't find that joy in Konoha. Hinata shook her head and let out a wet smile. No, I can't think of any more good memories associated with Konoha anymore. That hurt to hear. That hurt Naruto a lot to hear. Konoha is their home. The people that care about them the most live there. Hinata had her family back home and yet, she was so miserable being there. Naruto's been paying attention. Hinata looks more alive now than she has the past 2.5 years. The week they've been traveling. She was mute, but she looked somewhat better. You should go, Uzumaki. I rather you not see me like this. I rather you not sit here and take more of my temper tantrums and vile words. I am speaking from a dark place and I apologize. Naruto nodded his head as he started to eat again. Speaking from a dark place, but it's what you truly feel. You're not sugar-coating things anymore or keeping it all bottled in. That's not bad, Hinata. You told me how you really felt after all these years. With Sakura. With Sasuke. With the pain invasion, which I am not finished with that yet. We will be talking about that very soon. Anyways, everything you said today was how you felt and you have a right to feel that way. Even if it hurts people. Hinata put her bowl to the side even though she barely ate it. It was still full. She just couldn't stomach food at the moment. In a year, she has lost weight. She wasn't skin and bones, but she was reaching a very thin line of being malnourished. She let her hair out its high bun and let out a tired sigh as her hair fell down and wasn't weighing her head anymore. She did have dark circles under her eyes and Hinata just looked so faded away from reality. Like a hollow ghost, just taking up space. That's how she felt. Naruto crawled over closer to Hinata and she was so burned out emotionally, she didn't even give him a harsh look or move away. He pushed her bowl back over to her as he sat by her side. Eat, Hinata. I told you earlier that I'm not going anywhere. I'm where I want to be. Besides, I want to see you find this joy thing you talk about. Hinata furrowed her brows together and looked at Naruto curiously. He was looking at the fire and looked to be in thought. Maybe we can find it together. This venture isn't about me, Hinata, but I think it could benefit us. He finally looked back at her and smiled. Let's find your joy. Naruto scrunched his face up in pain. Holy crap. He gritted this through his teeth as he squeezed his eyes shut. Him and Hinata had gone to a resort at Bath Village. It was so popular and Hinata was fixated on going here. She didn't tell him why. She just said if he wanted to go then that was fine, and if he didn't want to go he could go off and do his own thing. Of course Naruto knew the real reason Hinata wanted to go. He wasn't stupid and Neji was a close friend of his too. Naruto had played cards with Neji and the guys numerous times. Neji had voiced how he wanted to go to this resort in Bath Village with Hinata. A Hyuga family vacation that Neji never got to have. Naruto was beginning to see that Hinata was going through Neji's bucket list. Wanting to do everything her cousin dreamed of doing. In Naruto's opinion, this probably wasn't going to work for Hinata in the long run. She was doing what brought Neji joy, not what made her particularly happy. Right now, Naruto and Hinata were getting a deep tissue massage, and it freaking hurt. It wasn't relaxing at all, and he was regretting paying for this one. Naruto and Hinata shared the same room. He looked over at her and saw that Hinata was in just as much discomfort. Her face was red from holding in her pain and displeasure. Her hands were gripping the massage bed she was lying on. Her cheeks were puffy with air and Hinata looked more annoyed than anything. The scene was hilarious. It made Naruto smile. He'd forever remember this moment. Thank goodness they only paid for 30 minutes. When they were finished, the two masseuses left so Naruto and Hinata could get dressed. Naruto turned away so Hinata could have her privacy as she did the same for him. Hey Hinata, are you okay? Hinata was silent for a second, because she was confused why Naruto would ask this. Yes. She heard Naruto chuckle as they continued to get dressed. I'm just asking because, well, that shit hurt. It was uncomfortable as hell. Hinata covered her mouth to hide her smile. Even though she knew Naruto couldn't see her. I should have done my research. This wasn't the best massage to pick from. There was a whole list and I chose this one. Naruto finished getting dressed and spared a look at Hinata to see she was putting her sandals on. Because of Neji. He wanted to get this massage. I know he's had a deep tissue massage before and he recommended me to try it. Hinata was silent as she put on her sandals and Naruto tilted his head as he looked at her. Maybe, just maybe, we can try doing something that you actually like to do, Hinata. Neji and you are totally different. Neji liked formal dinners and family functions. You like small gatherings and more relaxed functions. Neji would drink coffee or tea black. You like it sweet. Neji liked going to resorts and getting deep tissue messages. You're more of an outdoors person. You were never really into the noble clan life, Hinata. That's what Naruto always liked about Hinata. She was a princess, but never acted like it. She was so down to earth. So open-minded. Hinata was someone that you didn't have to talk to a certain way. Hinata was fine being just Hinata. The Hyuga name not needed for Hinata to be who she was. Neji was proud to be a Hyuga, which was awesome, but Hinata accepted being a Hyuga. It wasn't a make it or break it thing for her. Hinata looked up at Naruto before her eyes shifted to the side of him. She shook her head, refusing to accept what Naruto was saying. No, I have a set plan on what I want to do. She didn't really have a set plan. She didn't know what her end goal was. She just wanted to be happy again. Naruto squinted his eyes as he looked at her. Not really believing her. You have a set plan. So what is at the end of your plan? Once you finish off the list of places and things you want to do. Hinata shrugged her shoulders at him. She went to the door to walk out and looked over her shoulder at Naruto. I don't know. She opened the door and Naruto immediately followed her out. All right. Fair enough. Where to next? We just got here and tried out the massage. Maybe lunch. Are we staying here for a few days? Hinata nodded her head as they walked. She took them to a high-end resort inn. It was multiple floors and was a bright white and gold color on the outside. The inside looked just as expensive. Hinata walked up to the front desk and smiled the best she could to the receptionist. Excuse me. I reserved a room a few months ago under Hyuga Hinata. I was wondering if you have another room available as well. I'm very sorry to do this last minute. I understand you are typically booked far in advance. The male receptionist looked at Hinata with a sad smile. He felt bad to tell her. I see you as checking in today, Lady Hyuga. However, we are booked and have no extra single bed rooms for today. If you want, you could change your room over to a double bed room, and as a compensation of you giving up your suite, we'll give you two a complimentary free dinner on us within the resort. Hinata thinned her lips because this meant she would have to share a room with Naruto, but if she didn't, she knew he would be outside sleeping and that wouldn't be fair. Why did she care where he slept? She shouldn't care. He didn't really care about her. Naruto just liked to stick his nose in others' personal life. Naruto liked to fix things that seemed broken. Yet, she didn't want him alone. Naruto's been alone just like her, for a long time. The difference is Naruto didn't want to be alone. Did she really want to? Naruto watched Hinata smile at the receptionist. It was a fake smile. Yes. That will work. I greatly appreciate all your help today. The receptionist had to be about their age. Maybe a little older. He had black hair and it was styled a little like Sasuke's. Bangs in the front, spiky in the back. He had hazel eyes and would smile at Hinata with a charm Naruto knew was flirting. Even though Naruto was right there. Didn't this guy think they were a couple or something? Did he not care? Or the fact they were getting double beds, this showed that they weren't together. Still, he was literally right here and this guy was trying to charm Hinata, who was so emotionally detached from life she didn't even notice. Nevertheless, Naruto felt a little upset that this was happening right now. In his presence. He's the one that's been traveling with Hinata for the last 4 weeks. He's the one that had his feelings crushed by this tiny Hyuga ball of anger. Naruto has been the one watching Hinata while she slept to make sure she slept for at least 6 hours. He's the one making sure Hinata ate at least 2 meals a day and a snack. He's been following her around like a loyal canine. Finding ways to start a conversation even though she barely engages. Finding ways to make her smile and still somehow, sometimes, he'd make her blush. Naruto put that work in to be there for Hinata, and this guy just thinks he could come in and just flirt with her. Without even understanding what Hinata was going through. Hell, no. Naruto frowned at the receptionist and the man could feel Naruto's dominating aura just glaring at him. The clerk flinched slightly and immediately took on a more professional approach with Hinata. Once Hinata got them checked in and got their room cards, the duo made their way to the 7th floor out of 10 stories and got into their room. It was a freaking nice resort spot. The room, even though it wasn't the suite, looked like a suite. It looked so freaking nice. The floor was marble and white. It was a bright white and golden room with pure white beds and bed sheets. The material of the sheets and pillows had to be the finest material Naruto has ever touched. Holy crap, was this nice. This just screamed Neji. Hinata placed her belongings in the closet and sat on the bed. It's been a while since she laid on a bed. She thought her body would thank her for it, but Hinata felt nothing. No comfort. No pleasured feeling from lying on this nice and expensive bed. Nothing. Naruto watched Hinata lay on her back and place her hands on her stomach as she looked at the ceiling. This didn't make her happy. He could see it already on her face. Uzumaki. I got the room for today and tomorrow. If you want to go eat the free dinner, do as you wish. I am not feeling hungry. She felt stuck now. She didn't want to move or do anything. Why couldn't she be happy? She was doing something a lot of people dream of doing. It took 2 months of her ninja salary to pay for this resort and she couldn't push herself to smile. Why was she here experiencing this? Why couldn't Neji be here to be happy? He deserved to be happy more than she ever did. Naruto watched Hinata take a deep breath as she looked at the ceiling before her eyes just glossed over to appear like she was in a daze and disconnected. She must have just had a horrible negative thought and was trying to numb herself from thinking anything at all. Naruto smiled to himself. She wore a bright yellow kimono today, and looked nothing close to chipper. You're dressed really nice, Hinata. She didn't reply back and Naruto looked at the phone in the room as well as a pamphlet with numerous food items on it. Hinata watched Naruto from her peripheral vision place his belongings in the closet with hers before he picked up the phone and called for room service. She zoned out for a while, but after realizing Naruto was still on the phone, for almost 8 solid minutes, she turned and looked at him when he hung up the phone. Naruto looked at her and grinned before he stood up and went into the bathroom. When he returned, he came back with 2 robes. Hinata. What the hell? This is so freaking cool. Free